Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, friends. Welcome to the day one highlights of the Skilling Open, which is the first leg of the Champions Chess Tour 2021, hosted by Chess24 and, of course, Magnus Carlsen. The Skilling Open has a prize fund of $100,000 with about 30,000 reserved for the winner. And overall, of course, it's part of the Champion Chess Tour as we discussed, and it has a combined prize fund of 1.5 million US dollars. So this event has many of the world's top stars. Of course, world champion Magnus Carlsen is part of it, and we have our very own Indian Grandmaster Vidit Gujarati also in the mix. And we'll be having a quick look at the results and what happened in the day, and of course, check out a game between the tournament leader and Vidit Gujarati. So stay tuned for that. So let's check with the results quickly. We can see Anish Giri, our favorite and part of the Wolf Pack, leading the event with 4 points out of 5. So he scored 3 wins and 2 draws, one win including uh, a win over Vidit Gujarati. Uh, Other players part of the Wolf Pack include Taimur Radiobo and Vidit, who can be seen languishing at the bottom at 14th and 15th place with 3 draws and 2 losses for both the players, but we are sure that both of them will be making a comeback. In other results, Magnus Carlsen blundered a queen in what can be seen as the literally the queen's gambit that is being talked around, but it was sadly a mouse slip against Nepomniachtchi. But Magnus has recovered well and has 3.5 out of 5 games. Spanish star David Anton Cuyaro also has 3.5 out of 5 and can definitely provide an upset here. So let's quickly check in with the game of the day that we feel was quite promising and pretty important. That is between Indian star Vidit Gujarati and the tournament leader Anish Giri. So Anish was playing pretty well. He had 3 points out of 4 games, and Vidit sadly was off to a slow start with about 2 draws and 2 losses in his first 4 games. And here in this game, I think Lee Kwang Liem managed to pull off a win over Sergei Karyakin earlier, and even Carlsen beat Firouzja. So if Anish wanted to end this game, end this day on a high and be the sole leader after day one of the Skilling Open, then he had to win. And let us quickly see how this game turned out and how Anish actually managed to win later on. The game started with the famous Grunfeld defense that Anish plays and employs from time to time. So with it and Anish both are very good friends and have worked with each other, and both are well-known opening theoreticians. So quickly just play out moves at the start. Rook b1 was the idea that you want to go in. So a6 is provoked. Then he gets the rook into c1, and a series of trade follows, and it's all played, all well known until here. And with it now starts with h4, with the idea of activating this rook along the h file. And basically, black isn't afraid of being mated, so he can't castle quite easily. The game continues uh, with fairly known ideas for both sides, where Black wants to really pressurize the center here in the Grunfeld, and in the end, he has these passed pawns on the queen side, whereas White is saying that my central pawns and my pieces are well developed and well active, and they provide the compensation that is needed. E5 was played by Vidit, just trying to shunt this bishop out. After b5, you can see Vidit has a fairly decent position, and in fact, he should be playing on for two results rather the other way around. And here, game continues quite interestingly, but we have our feature section towards the action that happens towards the end of the game, wherein we have a very important end game lesson for you guys as well. So a series of jumping around, maneuvering here. You can see Anish is happy with the draw. If with it had gone for knight b3, Anish would have taken the repetition here. So you can see with it clearly a fighter, even though he has had a slow start, is still going for it, still fighting it out, and trying to maneuver his pieces, trying to just move around to see if he can create something out of thin air. Now Anish gets this really nice pawn break, after which white white has to be really accurate in this position. Otherwise, he might even risk being slightly worse. So action continues. Again, you can see with it is the one who is still trying, but he has allowed this rook to the seventh rank, where rooks are said to be very, very dangerous. So still now, I think slightly you see the balance has shifted from white to black's favor. White's pieces are slightly uncoordinated, not doing anything more, whereas black has the rook. Even black can get in this knight. He might have a passed pawn as well. So let's see how action continues. Let's check in a few moves more. And again, this king is slightly I would say uncomfortable because moves like knight f3, bishop c5, and is already threatening a mate on f2 with rook f2. So that is something white has to be careful with, and with it tries to dislodge this bishop as well as protecting the pawn in one go. After bishop c5, pawn to f4, one check follows, another check follows, and you can see with it is the more pieces with it exchanges, the more closer he's to a draw. Anish has played this really smartly here because he wants to stay in the lead as well as just be assured of a no risk strategy. So throughout the game, he has played moves where he definitely can't lose, but he has some chances of winning. And that brings us to the next point. You can see it's still fairly equal. Two pawns for white versus two pawns for black. There is nothing much to play for, but uh, I think that was some kind of pressure, the consistent pressure, and also some kind of nerves that with it maybe had that brought to his downfall. We'll still look at the key action element here. So still two pawns for both sides should be a fairly easy draw. So rook into a2, rook into b5, and bishop f6. This is the most critical moment of the game. I think even with some moves like king to d1, king going over to the queen side would have been enough. He can even just maybe drop in the knight to e5, but he goes for some a move that not many of us would have gone for in this position, where he sacrifices a knight for this pawn and hoping to hold the draw with the rook versus rook and bishop endgame. So again, let us note that there was no need or whether it was not forced in any way whatsoever, but he still goes for this. And now Anish just grabs his opportunity with both hands, welcomes the chance that he has been given. But before we just move in, the important lesson for the day is rook versus rook and bishop is a draw, and like you can study it in several endgame books, and it is well known. In fact, I think grandmasters rarely lose to this kind of endgame, leave alone elite GMs like with it. But I think one of the factors that didn't go in his favor was the fact that this was a a very rapid game and he was in time pressure. So maybe that led to his downfall. But we will see he was very much closer to a draw. So the thing is, to draw such endgames, you have to play 50 moves, not 1-5. That is 50 moves where there are no pawn moves or where there are no captures. So as you can see, white still has this pawn on g3. So we can start the 50 move countdown after the pawn on g3 is captured. So let's check in how Anish also just tries to go for checkmate, whereas with it will try to disturb or divert his attention by pushing the pawn. As you can see, already mate was threatened by Anish. So with it is careful about that. King c4 again pinning. Now I think Anish is just happy to go behind the pawn and capture it. And you can see there he goes for it. Now so this is guys move number 59. So 59 plus 50 is I think move 109. We will have a draw, and you can see at the end with it was super close to a draw, and we can just see how Anish just puts on pressure, just doesn't let with it break free from this. So the best way for white to draw is to get his king to the center or to always keep this bishop attacked with his rook or pinned with his rook to the king. So there are multiple drawing ideas here for white, and with it continues to do that for a very long time, but at the end just pressure kicks in and he loses it. So let's check in. King c2, bishop d4. Nice move by Anish, who is not letting the king break free. And as you can see, there comes the cut, and so that the white king stays in just in these two ranks. Let's continue. Rook c8, bishop c5. The idea is fairly simple. King to c4 and check. And if you are the attacking side, if you are playing black, then you have to try and squeeze the white king into one of the corners or to the back rank. And that's where multiple threats of winning the rook and a checkmate threat help you to win the game, as Anish later shows us. So king c4 comes in, king e2. Again, this little bit of shuffling around, and see, with best play or with computers play, it is a draw. It is well known. So Anish is just trying his best to shuffle around, try to get in some new positions, trying to change the bishop and the king's position. He might just throw the rook to the h file as well, just moving around to get something going. You can see this is the position which will be repeated again very soon, and see just white is defending very strongly, whereas black is trying to just get in new ways. Here, for example, if he had gone king to d3, white has a very interesting stalemate idea with rook d2 check. Of course, you can't take because bishop d2 because it's stalemate. So king to f3 is played by Anish, and with it has limited space, limited moves, but he's still holding on. This is by no means lost. You can see even the eval bar on the left is sticking a little Anish's favor, but not giving him a win outright. King e3 again planning to get in that idea, but with it is smart enough, he gets it out. And now again, maybe this check is threatened, and you can see now white has been forced to only one rank here. So this is some kind of progress for Anish, but again, not enough at all because with its rook is perfectly placed to hold the draw. So after rook h2, there's some kind of shuffling around, and this is the most critical moment of the game, guys, where with it had to find one of the two moves that hold a draw. So can you find the moves that would have helped with it to a draw? And yes, if you guys had found rook to f8 or rook to g8, then you guys deserve a pat on your shoulder, because this is the idea that you want to always keep checking this king from both sides, from the flank as well as the ranks. So rook f8 or rook g8 with the idea like, let me just show you, like king d3, you have this check possible. And if bishop e3 comes in a check, you can't go here because of this mate, but you just go to king to b1. And again, like we discussed, you have to pin this bishop always to have chances for a draw. But after bishop d4, with it made the fatal blunder of playing king to d1, and after this, you can see even the bar goes smashing down, and this is just completely lost. Anish does take some time to figure out the exact winning method, but it is just too little, too late for with it to salvage a draw. King d3 again, just threatening a mate. White has to defend. Little bit of shuffling around. Again, bishop b6 is important, holding this check. Rook to c6, bishop e3. Now again, if you give a check, I just block it. And here the important maneuver finally gets into Anish's mind after rook d2 check. This is an important check that helps white, that helps black to force white into a uncomfortable position. You can see again a checkmate is threatened here, and now he gets in this important check, which allows him to get the rook back. As now, if white just makes any random move, black is threatening bishop c3 check and rook f1 mate. So the rook to d6, Anish just plays rook to g5, and now this mate is unavoidable. Like, because the rook should have been on d8, because then if you can go to f8 to block this, but that is why we saw that bishop b6 maneuver was really important around here, which forced the white rook to come to this side. And even like after rook f5, for example, there is even if you play something like king d1 with the idea if you want to block this check with rook e1, still Anish just plays the simple bishop e5. And now again, if you come here, I give a check, king d1, I give a check, rook to e1, and then I capture this. So with it resigned on move 93, about 16 moves short of a draw. So you can see he knew the technique, he knew how to defend this. He has done it a million times, I think, already. But sadly, this time the pressure got to him, and it was maybe just Anish's day. And Anish is will start as the sole leader on day two with 4 out of 5. And I think just to end this, we have a quote from Anish that says that the score is good. Obviously, 2 more days to go, so it's early to count the eggs or whatever they say. And the positions were very good. Could have been more maybe, but it is a very good result for me for sure. And you can see Anish is in high spirits. Is looking forward to this event, especially that will engage his Twitter battle against world champion Magnus Carlsen. So all in all, I hope you guys learned something about the Rook versus Bishop endgame, and also let's keep cheering our superstar Vidit Gujarati for day two. And till then, you can just follow the games on chess.com as well, chess.com events, and also on Chess TV. So thank you guys for following this recap show, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye bye.